Okay, guys. Good day. We are going to get into week 3 and 4 slides, and it's a short. This one's short because you guys have an in-class assignment that you're going to be doing. So I don't want you guys spending too much time on anything else. I want you guys focusing on that. So it's worth 10% of your mark. All right. So let's get into it. Material requirements planning. What is it? Material requirements planning is a computer-based inventory management system designed to improve productivity for businesses. Companies use material requirements planning systems to estimate quantities of raw materials and schedule their deliveries. So, let's say you're manufacturing cell phones, and as you know, cell phones have a ton of different parts, right? So there's not just you don't just buy a cell phone. If you're a cell phone manufacturer, you have to purchase a bunch of different parts. And basically, what you do is you have to obviously source the raw material, which is, the motherboard, the glass, the battery, the chips, the microphone, whatever goes into however many things go into manufacturing a cell phone. Software, right? But software is not part of MRP, but it's mostly the raw material, right? So you get the raw material, um, and let's just say that you're building all these phones and stuff. Some phones, might have different, um, you have different versions of phones, right? You got the Samsung S20, S20 Plus, S20 Ultra, so they all have different components and stuff, right? So let's just say um, you're running out of stock for one of the S20 Plus's cameras. You're running out of stock. Now, what an MRP does is a software where you basically can track all of your raw material that you guys have at the manufacturing plant, right? So you can MRP tracks how many were used on each phone, and if they come down to a certain level, they'll just automatically reorder or send you an alert saying you need to reorder more of these because they're going down. So basically, it's a computerized um, raw material handling and procurement and inventory, basically all in one. So how does it work? So it's designed to answer three main questions. What is needed? How much is needed? And when is it needed? Right? So, technology has made our life so easy. Back in the day, before computers, all this stuff would have to be done by hand, right? A lot of times companies right now, even right now, don't have an MRP system. They do all inventory by counting, right? Some companies are like that. Some don't have an MRP, depending how big and how small and how much stuff they have going on. So it's basically a system for trying to figure out the materials and items needed to manufacture a given product. So let's just say you have, your Samsung and you're building three different S20 pluses, you're building Samsung earbuds, you're building Samsung televisions, all that stuff in the factory, right? An MRP system tracks all that stuff, so it helps you figure out the materials and items needed to manufacture a product. So you have all those things there. MRP helps manufacturers get a grasp of inventory requirements while balancing both supply and demand, right? So extremely helpful tool to use if someone is in a manufacturing or some sort of distribution company that have to put product together, right? So that's how it works. 4 steps of MRP. What are the 4 steps? So first is estimating demand and the materials required to meet it. Okay, so the initial step of MRP process is determining customer demand and the requirements to meet it. So let's just say Samsung says, you know what, we need to manufacture these many phones to meet this estimated purchase, right? So the way Samsung can do that is, by looking at previous models, how they did, right? So you say, okay, you're estimating maybe 40 million people are going to buy this phone. So I need components for 40 million phones. I need to produce 40 million phones. Okay, so that's what it does. That's the first step is you estimate how much you need. And then check demand against inventory and allocate resources. So this step involves checking demand against what you already have in inventory. The MRP then distributes resources accordingly. In other words, MRP allocates inventory into the exact area it's needed. Okay, so basically it allocates targets the areas that it's needed, and that's basically what it does, right? It just sees where it would be demanded, where it would be needed. Production scheduling. So the next step in the process is simply to calculate the amount of time and labor required to complete manufacturing. A deadline is also provided. So production scheduling, as we know, easy. Monitor the process. The final step of the process, simply monitor for any issues. MRP can automatically alert managers for any delays and even suggest contingency plans in order to meet build deadlines. So you guys, kind of cool. The world's going in a really cool place. Types of data considered by MRP. So what type of data does MRP look for, right? What type of stuff does it take? So name of the final product that's being created, so you need to have that, right? What and when info, so how much quantity is required to meet demand, when is it needed? The shelf life of stored materials, how long can it sit on the shelf for? Inventory status records, bills of materials. Planning data includes all the restraints and directions to produce such items as routed. So planning data, right? Planning data, yep. So basically, yeah, that's it. I don't know what else to say about that. It's all written right there. Okay, so what are some advantages of MRP, materials requirements planning? So assurance that materials and components will be available when needed, right? It's very important for a manufacturing plant. So for example, the manufacturing plant we used to process soybean and canola oil on like a massive scale, right? So like a million tons a year. So we had a lot of stuff going on at the plant, and if the plant ever shut down, it costed our company $100,000 in revenue every day that the plant was shut down. So if you don't have components and parts available when needed, it could shut down the plant, because what are you going to manufacture if you don't have the material? So this basically is saying that it assures that materials and components will be available when needed. Minimize inventory levels and costs associated, right? So basically only orders what it needs, which means that you don't have to be spending money on a bunch of stuff all the time. All this stuff is everything is noted down, and it saves you guys on a lot of costs. And then optimized inventory management, right? So it just makes your inventory management so much better, reduces customer lead times. If you can make your product very fast without having to wait for raw material to come in, it makes it gets the product to the customer faster. Increase manufacturing efficiency, increase labor productivity, and increase overall customer satisfaction. So basically all of those things. So what are some disadvantages of MRP? So if you have that, what are some disadvantages? So heavy reliance on input data accuracy, right? If people get heavily reliant on it. MRP systems can often be difficult and expensive, obviously, because it's a big software. There's going to be costs associated with it. So like I said, a lot of companies don't have this even in the modern age because it's extremely expensive to implement. Lack of flexibility when it comes to the production schedule, and then introduces the temptation to hold more inventory than needed, right? So it really depends. You can set the levels, right? You can set your minimum levels and your maximum levels of inventory that you want. So it's a disadvantage you can actually get over. Okay. Lastly, what is goods issue? So goods issue is the movement or removal of goods or materials out of the warehouse. In short, it means the issuing of goods or materials from the warehouse to the production and manufacturing process unit. When goods are issued, it reduces the number of stock in the warehouse. Okay, so basically is the movement or removal of the raw material. So if it's used in the production manufacturing cycle, that means it's a goods issue. All right. And that's the end of the slides, guys. We make sure you guys are in class on the live chat because it's extremely important. All right. See you guys.